Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to ONS Oinkers Never Sleep versus STO Salad Tomate Oignon. My name's Nature. I'm joined by Spuddington, and I have to feel like, well, maybe STO has to do something to, well, maybe try and win the second game in this best of 5 series.
Yeah, last game was not fun for them. They fell a long way behind very early on, and they just weren't able to reclaim any ground at any point, never letting up with the sheer amount of split pushing actually that came out from both Mimer on Vlad and White Knight on Zed. And that's a difficult thing to contend with because both of those champions get to a point where you absolutely have no choice but to commit 2 people to stop them. And obviously if you're committing 4 people to 2 lanes, then you have a big problem if the enemy has 3 to put somewhere else. Now, obviously we may see some different bans coming out, like banning out Lucian has happened. Which should potentially keep that bottom lane a little bit more under the control of STO here, but they still have to contend with that potential for a Zed pick, because last game they picked out Kale as the counter to it, and it just didn't work out, in spite of the fact Kale is very, very strong against Zed in a straight-up one-on-one. White Knight was so good individually that he was able to work around that. So now STO, we'll see what they choose to do, but they have a lot of different things to keep in mind and not allow their opponents to get a hold of. Whereas there isn't really too much that needs to be worked on from the perspective of ONS here. They just do whatever they did last time and they will win.
Alright, so the very first ban coming in here, or very first pick rather, coming in here for STO, as they will be once again taking the Elise, which, well, to be fair, Airwax did quite a good job for, well, compared to how his team was doing on the Elise, which I believe he was the only member to actually pick up at least some kills. And on the other side, Amin will be once again taking out the Vi, and Mixture looking to pick up that Caitlyn for Mr. Rales. And, well, I did not, well, that did not really surprise me, the Caitlyn, because that is, that might just be next in line when the Lucian is banned.
Yes, indeed. Now, I'm actually a little bit curious to see Armin going for Vi here so much. I know he plays a really, really fantastic Lee Sin, and it seems to me like the Elise is being picked away from him because they are scared of his potential to snowball the game. Armin is a really, really good jungler. But at the same time, I'm a little bit curious as to whether he particularly values Vi just because she's so flexible and you can pick her early up, and it helps with pretty much every stage of the game. Whereas Elise can, at least late game, have some problems being a primary initiator for your team. Whereas Vi will always have that capacity available to her thanks to her ultimate and indeed her Q. So interesting that they've chosen to go for that, but nothing too surprising. Now, I'm casting from the stream. Nature, what are the next 2 picks?
Yuki and Kuja have locked in something interesting. Kuja has locked in the Renekton, not too interesting right there, but Yuki has actually picked up the Vayne. Now, the Vayne was banned last game around, so we are going to see Yuki's Vayne in action, and well, I believe that it was actually ONS banning that one out, so they might actually have been scared for Yuki's Vayne. On the other side, however, White Knight will be picking up the Nami for Mixia, and Mimer will once again be picking up his Vladimir.
Now, because Vayne drew the respect ban previously, you do have to wonder that is going to be something now that will be feared by ONS in circumstances. They have picked themselves up a Nami though, so that's a really interesting choice, and I think that could work extremely well if they're able to get the straight up 2-on-2 against Vayne. Whatever support you're running, Vayne is always going to have problems with being harassed down by auto attacks from Caitlyn, and if you are Nami and you decide, for instance, to max your E, that can really facilitate that. You get a lot of bonus damage on every single auto attack, and you get the slow, which means you're likely to get extra auto attacks, making it even harder to pin that down. And right now we are going to be seeing what happens, but we have also got the Vlad locked in again actually by Mimer, so interesting. Wonder if they'll go for the 2-on-1 swap up.
Yeah, so Airwax and Zilks will be picking themselves up the Lulu and the Orianna, so Shockwaves coming in there. And Shockwaves tend to be either the deciding factor in a team fight, or if they just whiff completely, well, that might just be an instantly lost team fight for your team. But, well, of course, they are going to have to get going to start, because if they don't manage to, well, actually get into this game, they might just have a hard time actually landing those shockwaves, because they will not do as much damage as you would want. And, oh, this is interesting, Rallas, locking in the Syndra for White Knight.
Okay, so looking for an aggressive mid lane here. Now, my own personal inclination is to say that Syndra is not generally brilliant against Orianna. It's hard to burst Orianna down because she keeps a safe distance, and in an emergency, she has that shield available to her. However, with Armin, with Vi as your potential jungle ganker here, that puts Orianna in a slightly more dangerous situation than she is used to, and now that will be so scary, actually. I'm looking forward to watching that mid lane, but there's a lot of key points here, essentially. Do they go for the 2-on-1 swap up this time? I feel like STO would be well served by it, but they do have to be very careful that they don't lose too many towers as a result of the Caitlyn push in the bottom lane. At the same time, though, they can't really allow the 1-on-1 between Renekton and Vlad. That did not work out for them last time. And the 2-on-2 against Caitlyn and Nami would be very difficult as well. Even with Lulu, who is a decently strong early game support and gives a little bit of extra shielding, I still don't think that could work for them. But if they do that, they're still going to have to contend with the 1-on-1 in mid lane. And assuming that Airwax is able to juggle effectively between babysitting the duo lane and making sure that mid lane doesn't get ganked down, this could actually work out for STO. Regardless though, guys, we are just going to be going into a quick commercial break while we wait for the delay time to tick down. So got 3 minutes on the clock there, and we'll see you after this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is STO versus ONS, and we are into the Rift. This is the second game in this best of 5 series in the EUS Challenger Series number 16 Grand Final. It's been a long road to get here, and it does seem like we might see an invade this game. Mixer actually following up with the rest of his team. I'm Spuddington, joined by Nature.
Yeah, so we might, as you said, have an invade here, as of course ONS looking to put some pressure down in that red buff area, but on the other side we do have STO doing the exact same thing. Mimer has not spotted that one out, so even though he's standing in a good position to actually do so, he will not be doing so, as Kuja and his team will just be popping some wards in the jungle. And that is going to be that for them, as they do seem like they are going to return to lane. But Gob might be in trouble here if he walks into that brush. He's just going to wait in that river brush. And on the other side, we do have the STO, or ONS team rather, looking to back away for themselves, as they were actually sitting on a ward. Ooh, Airwax might be finding Rallas here. Pops a ward into the brush. Airwax not done pursuing just yet, as he hasn't taken his cocoon at level 1, so he cannot stun. And that is going to be the end of that. But, well, overall, a little bit of action. Nothing too interesting just yet.
And you can see this funny juggling game. If you were watching Mimer during that whole engagement, you could see he was mirroring Gob's movements. They really, really want the straight up one-on-one and the straight up two-on-two in this situation. And unfortunately, because Gob has now walked past that trinket ward, which they actually saw being placed down, they're going to get it. And this is something that's incredibly difficult now, I think, for STO to deal with, because they're going to have to come out of the lanes, which last game they lost, honestly, catastrophically, in even worse matchups now, but come out better than they did last game. It may have been simply a sort of a snowballing effect last game, so we will see if STO can do better this time, but they're gonna have to contend with some seriously difficult matchups now, and I don't know if they can do it.
Alright, so Kuja taking a little bit of harass in that top lane, as he will be forced to pop those biscuits of rejuvenation, and well, Yuki, of course, as you said, might be having trouble here dealing with the harass coming out of Valez and Mixia, but so far they have been shoving that lane up in towards their turret. Pillar Peacemaker comes out once again, will not connect on towards Kuja this time around. And Valez and Mixia, they seem to be taking a little bit more harass than their counterparts. But then again, that might just be the start, and of course Mixia can heal.
Now, I think this was actually very, very smart from what Airwax is doing right now. He is sneaking into this upper area brush because they know Mr. Rallis is not going to want to be pushed up against this tower permanently against Vayne. That would allow her free farm. That is obviously very, very dangerous. And now he's waiting in the wings. Has got the stun!
Cocoon comes down towards Rallis. He just gets exploded almost instantly. Pops the barrier. Is that going to be enough? Ignite is taking first blood. Goes over to STO. Great Cocoon.
Yeah, really, really smart positioning, as I said, by Airwax there, because he knew Caitlyn, having been pushed into her tower, would start trying to push out, and obviously that gives him an ideal opportunity to get in as close as possible. Going for the dive, but the Condemn messed up. Yeah,
they didn't really hit the Condemn, neither did they hit the actual Cocoon. Mixture trying to alive as good as he can. Great ebb and flow, but that is going to be a kill on himself, as Airwax did bite the dust, of course, as well, because Amin did rejoin the party.
Not a great trade at the end there because of that failed Condemn, and now Armin has gotten a refresh on his double buffs, and we have much the same kind of flip side thing happening to Airwax. He does not have buffs at all. Elise can cope without, obviously her mana costs aren't too high, but not the ideal situation. However, the fact that Vayne is not suffering too much in this early game has built up a bit of a farm advantage, and now also has got that Vamp Scepter. That does mean she's actually got decent odds of coming out of this lane with at least okay farm, which is very, very crucial to their game plan.
It certainly is. Rallis looking to put some damage down on that turret, but once again, look at this. Airwax heading over towards that top lane, and Rallis might find himself in trouble if Airwax finds him, but good ward of Mixia will spot Airwax out, and in the end, we did have, of course, Amin to well, reinforce him if needed, as he does clear out some wards there, and White Knight will be helping him out with that one. And the Airwax will be sticking around in that top area to maybe try and well, help his teammates out because they aren't ahead as much as they would want in this stage of the game.
Right, so I believe actually our stream did go down for a few seconds there. Not entirely sure what happened, but it seems like it should be back up at this point. Sorry for that, guys. You hopefully haven't missed too much. But basically, to recap now, doing all right here for STO. Actually, going to be going for another gank. Airwax is in top.
Yeah, great condemn on towards Miksha. He gets stunned up twice with the cocoon. He is taking so much damage, and the fangs will sink in. And that is going to be yet another kill for STO. They are starting off really, really strong.
Yeah, this is a much better result than they had in the previous game, and might be part of why we saw that respect ban for Vayne in the first game. Orianna as well in the mid lane has not been suffering as she did last time, actually keeping herself a little bit ahead on farm as compared to Syndra, which is a really nice windfall as well. So this is actually looking much better. Even though bot lane is still not going quite ideally, they've actually opened up a bigger CS gap between them this time as well on Gob. So really looking a lot better for STO.
Rallas and Miksha still in that top lane, trying to deal with Yuki and Kuja, who are very aggressively pushing that lane up towards their turret. As Amin will be just returning to his lane as he was pointed out by a ward. And well, we haven't touched too much on that bottom lane, but when we were to take a look at CS, we'll hold that thought for a second because Mimer takes a little bit of harass by the Cold Meek, of course. But Gob sitting on 47 harass, and on the other side, Mimer on 38. So a little bit of a CS lead right there for Gob. Nothing too much, but that just shows us that Mimer might not just be doing as good as he was last game around.
Yeah, last game he was roughly equal on CS at pretty much every stage of the game. And obviously because Vlad outscales Renekton, he was not really able to deal with that as time went by. Now, in addition, last game there was global gold coming to Mimer's pocket, so it took a lot less time than you would conventionally think for him to start to really bully out Renekton. This game, though, is going to have a lot more difficult of a time as assuming that they don't start getting either jungle ganks or a dragon potentially from the bottom lane. But because Vlad is relatively weak earlier as compared to Renekton, because they're in that bottom lane area, there's actually a lot less dragon control available here for Onkers Never Sleep. So that means that it's actually going to be hard for him. However, because of his ability to pull Renekton, it's going to take a lot for Renekton to actually get a kill. So as time goes by, it will eventually happen.
Alright, Amen looking to maybe rotate over towards that top lane, as that is, of course, a good contention point for either teams. As Airwax actually might be doing the exact same thing. He has got himself a red buff, no blue buff, but as you said, he really doesn't need that because he doesn't have too much of a mana cost, as he will be once again sneaking into that brush. But White Knight and Amin might be looking to counter this one. White Knight in the end returning towards his own middle lane. But Amin standing by to make something happen here.
And in fact, it's going to be the counter gank from him.
Yeah, Cocoon connects on towards Rallis, taking a whole lot of damage. Ignite is taking, Repel will come down. Rallis goes down to Kuja, as right now they're turning their attention to Amin. He is taking so much damage for himself. Red buff will be proccing on towards him. Airwax a little bit too deep maybe there, as the shield will come down on him from Kuja with the last amount of mana he had. And that is a 1-for-0 once again in the favor of STO.
And it was a nice, again, play by Airwax being right there for the counter gank from an expected Vi gank there. I think Armin was thinking that because it hadn't been quite a long time since Airwax had been up there, it would be a relatively safe bet that he could go for the gank. But in the end, that's going to put Vayne even further ahead. Although, it's worth noting, she's not actually the one picking up the kills here, so this game isn't getting, so this lane isn't getting closed out per se, but it is putting STO a long way ahead, and that is a really good sign for them.
Yeah, Yuki is actually 2 levels ahead of Ralez, so that is well, something he's got going quite effectively for him right there, as Ralez will be probably hitting level 6 fairly soon because he's got an entire wave or 2, or probably just 1 wave because Yuki is heading there quite quickly. Now we do have once again Airwax maybe trying to gank Maimer here. Maimer is, of course, very, very slippery. Airwax goes in. Good stun comes down towards Maimer. Great cocoon, but Maimer will be forced to flash out of there. So great flash for Maimer for himself. But Amin is standing by here to gank. Charges up the Volt Breaker, but he was spotted out by a ward. Once again, cocoon lands on towards Maimer. He will not be taken down because Amin is here to help him out.
And if they overstay here, Syndra is actually coming down. She was spotted by a ward, but I don't think they noticed her going past it. Either that or they intend to counter gank with Orianna. But Syndra is going to get there a lot sooner. They are actually just baiting it out, wasting some time, and they're going to back out. Now, actually, it's worth noting, because both the junglers are committed there, we get to see how much Yuki has been put ahead by the ganks in this top lane. Because now it's a straight up 2-on-2, and normally Caitlyn has the advantage, but there's been a lot of help from the jungle, and we'll see if that's able to work for their favor.
Condemn doesn't quite connect on towards Mixa, but we might have just the ONS team here looking, or the STO team rather, looking to take down this dragon, and that is going to be the very, very first dragon of this game. Meanwhile, that middle lane, I feel like White Knight has to know this is going on, but of course they really are not on time, as they will be spotted out by the ward in the end. That is STO, but they did already take down the dragon, so very first dragon going over to STO, who are just extending their gold lead to around 2,700 gold. Which is a very, very nice, but that isn't definitely. Ooh, Yuki gets caught. Great tidal wave coming out of Miksha, who is now looking to finish off Yuki. But Rallis takes a little bit too much damage for himself. Yuki flashes in, picks up the kill towards Rallis. Miksha now in all kinds of trouble as Yuki isn't done with him quite yet. Miksha does reach the safety of his turret in the end, but then again, that was a great turnaround out of STO.
And that does start to show how far ahead he actually is now. Obviously, Vayne is a very strong all-in AD carry to begin with, but without Armin there, it's no longer possible for Caitlyn to really stop Vayne from farming, and that puts you in a really bad situation because you get into this situation where Vayne either farms or gets killed, or you commit huge amounts of manpower to stopping her, and she's hard to pin down, especially with a Lulu support. So now STO are the ones actually really in the driving seat, and that's something we didn't see at all last game. However, there are still some aspects which they need to be applying pressure to, and you can actually see them doing that. Gob has had several ganks now that the bottom lane has kind of been secured in terms of how well they were doing all along. Gob is getting a lot of pressure because Maimer is starting to get a little bit too difficult for him to deal with in a straight up one-on-one. That's why you're now seeing Elise once again actually returning in through the Tri-Brush. Can Gob set that up?
Doesn't quite get the stun off, so Maimer will be living to see another day, but he has got his Sanguine Pool on cooldown, so that might mean he would go in for another stun in a second, but then again Airwax did show himself, so they will not be picking up this kill on towards Maimer just yet. This Maimer is of course a little bit too elusive to actually pick up at this point. Meanwhile, that middle lane, which we haven't paid a whole lot of attention to, Zux and White Knight looking to battle it out, of course, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of action going on just yet. They're exactly the same on farm, so that means of course that they're doing great both, and that there's nothing really for them both to worry about. But then again, White Knight might be taking down this turret very shortly. Zeux was rotating over towards his blue buff, and White Knight is looking to capitalize on that by taking down this turret. It doesn't seem like he's actually going to be able to do so.
Yeah, the only concern in the mid lane right now for STO is indeed, as you mentioned, that tower, because there's a lot of gold that Zix is sitting on that he's not spent. He really wants to, but he just doesn't find the opportunity. He's going to go with the Shockwave.
Shockwave comes in on towards White Knight. He gets reinforced by Amin. Great prediction out of him. Sultan Battery comes down on towards Airwax. Misses the cocoon, and Amin will be backing away. But that was a great turnaround out of Amin. White Knight would have certainly gone down if Airwax wasn't there, or if Amin wasn't there to help him out. And the White Knight will be taking down this turret if Zilks cannot do anything about it.
He's now got the health advantage, but remember, White Knight still has massive range for farming, and indeed has a lot more damage available at the moment. Both of them use their ultimates, but Syndra has a single target focused kit to begin with. It also has the ability to get that stun down, possibly for harass. It's going to throw down an extra Q there. Nothing too major. Bot lane.
Mimer gets blown up by Gob, who actually went for the dive with the dominance. No real problem for him. Now, meanwhile, we do have Gob going a little bit low. But, of course, he's Renekton. He can deal with it. So we might have Amin looking to actually reinforce that bottom lane. Gob, great play right there on towards Mimer, and we do have the dragon coming up in around 2 minutes once again. But hold that thought for a second, because Airwax might be looking for gank here in that top lane. Cocoon on towards Rallis connects, he gets polymorphed, he gets so much damage. Ignite is taking, he's being forced to flash, but he is not going to be able to live through this, or is he? Because he uses the barrier, ebb and flow comes out of Miksha. That is going to be letting Rallis survive, but that is not going to be able to make Miksha survive.
Yeah, White Knight actually roaming up to that top area, though, has given Ziggs a chance to start damaging this tower in the bottom in the mid lane there. That's a really, really nice windfall for him. I'm a little bit surprised to see he hasn't gone back from that, but it seems he is going to stay for the farm. And now White Knight is probably going to want to push out again and try and stop Orianna, but seems like he's just going to carry on staying in and keeping on with the farm there. So it seems that Vayne is going to become a really serious problem at this rate. STO need to start capitalizing on that, though. They aren't snowballing this game quite as quickly as their opponents did in the previous game. Armin in the top wanted to make something happen, but didn't dare go too deep, because obviously you've got to respect the Vayne damage.
And at that bottom lane, Nightmare's having trouble actually dealing with Gob, which is, well, interesting to say the least, because last game around, he didn't really have any trouble dealing with Gob. So Gob showing why he is actually picking up the Renekton for the second time in this game, and he proves that he can actually make that one work against the Vladimir. And Arax just roaming over towards that bottom lane. He will be spotted out by a ward, and White Knight maybe looking to follow him right there as he pumps some wards all around. And Airwax, ooh, that might be dangerous, as he is sitting in that brush. So maybe land a good cocoon on towards White Knight, but it doesn't seem like he's actually going to be able to do so. Meanwhile, that top lane, of course, harass going, well, between two teams, between these four members, and nothing really happening just yet. But I feel like we might have an explosion in a couple of minutes.
Either that or Airwax will solo the dragon. Renekton in the area, they know Syndra's roamed top, and that means it's a free dragon pickup there for STO. Building up their gold advantage to a really significant degree now. About 6,000, and they haven't gotten out of these lanes yet. That means the emphasis is very, very much upon White Knight and upon Amin. They need to roam and they need to get a decisive kill, then look to try and take towers, because they need to start playing this roaming game, the rotation game, because if this continues at this rate, there's going to be such a big goal difference between the two teams by the time they get out of the lanes that there's not going to be anything they can do to actually fight straight up. Alex there doesn't get the blue, but he does force Armin to smite it.
Yeah, so no blue buff going over to White Knight right there. Will be, well, of course, not too content with that, as Syndra is a very, very mana-heavy champion, as she does need a lot of mana to keep spamming out those orbs, or those dark spheres, rather. And she looks to be roaming towards that top lane once again. Speaking around the top lane, Rallis gets blown up once again by Yuki under his very own turret. It doesn't seem like Rallis actually can handle Yuki.
Unsurprising, though, given the circumstances. I mean, it's 180 farm to 128. It's 0-4 to 3-0-4. That's huge, absolutely enormous gold disparity at this stage of the game. 4,900-ish, so about 5,000 gold to nearly 3k more than that. That is huge, huge, huge disparity between the two of them, and Vayne is an incredibly strong duelist anyway, so at this stage of the game, if they were on an equal footing, you'd expect her to be ahead. But you can see the determination here to take that tower has actually paid off. They do pick that up, and that's going to mean that it's much harder now for Yuki to keep farming as safely as she has been, but she's already on 2 items, and they do take a revenge one in the bottom.
Yeah, they do take one in the in the bottom lane indeed, as Gob will be taking that gold home for himself. Now, he will be picking himself up a Sunfire Cape, so he's going to be that much more effective in split pushing, as of course the Sunfire Cape will allow him to deal damage to all the minions around him. And there's coming some there are some pings coming out around that Dragon area, as White Knight and Miksha are heading over there. Amin will just find that there's no dragon anymore, and that is going to be, well, a little bit unfortunate for them, but they might try and capitalize on that by actually taking down that middle turret, as of course we did have Yuki and Kuja taking down that top turret as a little bit of a retaliation towards Mixer and White Knight, who were taking down the top turret.
Ziggs has to be careful. White Knight's waiting for him.
Yeah, here comes the Unleashed Power 6 as Zilks rather has the Ignite taking on him. Great Shockwave will deter White Knight from actually following up on him, but Flash gets burned by White Knight. He is looking to make this happen. He gets blown up by Zilks, however, and Amin uses the Assault and Battery to finish off Zilks. That is a 1-for-1 trade, and that wasn't ideal. Meanwhile, in that bottom lane, Cocoon doesn't quite connect on towards Miksha as he was forced to flash away. Gob not quite done chasing yet. It seems like he really wants his kill. Flash! Stun comes down on towards Miksha, and a pool being used by Mara. They are looking to turn this one around. A great kill on towards Airmax, and the surrender coming out.
Wow.
Of Ness. Okay.
Laning phase, too bad. GG 20-minute surrender. Okay, that was interesting because both of these games have basically been completely decided on the laning phase. I mean, last game, obviously, it was shown that STO had a little bit more fortitude. They stayed in the game for a little bit longer after having really catastrophically lost the laning phase. But this time, with that vein, I can really understand the logic behind it, but I don't think they were completely beyond hope. It was about 7,000 gold between the two teams. And they were gonna have to contend with some very strong scaling team fights from STO, but I don't think it was beyond hope. They have, however, chosen to surrender, and that is obviously their prerogative. So bringing the series to a 1-1 in a way that I don't think anyone was really expecting after that first game. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting the next lobby up fairly shortly, and I'm kind of hoping we get a slightly more even game next time. I mean, you know, precedent doesn't actually expect it, but we will see. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back.